All right, so this safety rules are part of the syllabus here. I wanted to talk about this. Number one, always follow teacher directions. When we do a lab, there'll be written directions, and then I'll also demonstrate the procedure. You never want to do your own unauthorized experiment. And usually in science, they're kind of it's like following a recipe. If you're going to cook something at home, you follow the recipe and you don't do things outside of that. And that's for safety reasons, especially in chemistry and physics, but some strange things can happen that are unsafe. So here we've got some equipment. There's an eye wash station. If you look at the front left of the room there's looks kind of like a drinking fountain with two spouts on it. So that one, if you get something in your eye, you're supposed to put your eyes over that double drinking fountain. There's a lever, push it down, and it'll rinse out your eyes. You're supposed to do it for 20 minutes. There's also a safety shower connected to that. It looks like a big yellow hood. There's a little yellow handle on the left side of the classroom there. And if there's a chemical burn or somebody has a fire, hair or clothing on fire, then that's the shower we need to use. And it's always tested periodically. And so that's a safety thing. I've never had to use it in 20 years, but that's always got to be there if we're doing experiments. All right, we got fire blankets. If you look over on the left on the blue wall in orange, there's a fire blanket there. There's kind of an orange container there. That's a fireproof blanket that if there's a fire on a table or on the floor, it just smothers the fire. Haven't had to use that either, but it's there for safety reasons. And then there's also a fire extinguisher over on the blue wall as well, if you look over there. All right, clean. When we do labs, we just want to have just the lab equipment and our lab guide. Sometimes we'll use our Chromebook, sometimes we'll use paper, but we want to make sure we don't have a lot of clutter because that can be a safety concern. All right, read through directions before you start experimenting. Hazards or cautions, I'll mention those and we'll have those on there as well. All right, the next part of the safety, it talked about safety goggles. So in the back of the room, there's a white cabinet, and that white cabinet contains our safety glasses. Now our safety goggles are, I'll grab a pair here, right here. All right, so there's a little strap. When we put these on, the straps are both sides, so you and I all have different size heads, so you can either loosen them or tighten them. You don't need to tie them at all. You can just kind of pull on the strap, it'll come loose, come looser, or else you pull it the other way, it becomes a little bit tighter. And then we wear these over our eyes. Whenever there's heat, chemicals, or glass. Heat, chemicals, or glass, those three conditions, we have to use safety goggles. All right, never taste any substances. We never eat in the classroom. All right, we want to gas outlets. Every group has gas outlets. They're kind of like there's a handle with a nozzle here. All right. And we want to make sure these are turned off. Right now they're in the off position. If the handle is parallel with the nozzle, so if I go like this, then they're on. We want to make sure they're off. And please don't monkey with these. So that's for safety reasons. Hot plates, we'll be using hot plates. The number one source of injury in Minnesota is a hot plate. And so here's an example of a hot plate. I keep them in the back here. These oftentimes you'll come to class, there will have been a class before you, and they'll be just sitting at the table. They don't look hot, and so students will try to move this. It'll be right in front of them, and they'll try to move it. And then if you touch this, it's going to be really hot. And that's the number one source of injury is burns, and this is the culprit. So a hot plate is kind of like a little electric stove we use. And so these, you got to be really careful. But turn off at the end of the hour or whenever the experiment's over. And then also water faucets, we want to use those sparingly. All right, if you have an accident or an injury, let me know. I have to report that to our school nurse, any accident or injuries. We never want to smell a substance. So if you have a test tube with a container of a something, you never want to put your nose right in it and then you get a full. Instead, we want to waft it. So you hold it away from your face and then kind of go like this to get a smell. It's called wafting. All right, we want to always handle the lab equipment carefully. When glassware breaks, let me know. We always keep the glassware in the same place. And you might not be, probably aren't going to be the last class of the day. So I often don't have a chance to inspect it. If you do break something, let me know and we'll get to another one. And you don't want to pick up broken glass with your hands. If you break something, let me know. We've got a dustpan and paper towels to do it safely. Want to clean the lab area when finished. Lab equipment will always be on a cart in the front of the room. And so there'll be one equipment person who will go up and get the materials. And then they're also responsible for bringing them back. So the same person that gets the equipment returns them. And so that's another one. So because they know where it goes. Washing your hands, we don't always do that, but you're always welcome to use the sink and wash your hands if you're concerned. But usually we're pretty safe. But we have sinks to do that if something happens. All right, so good.